Welcome back to the Picky Picker, video number 2. So in this video, we're going to move on beyond the acrylic training lock that we used in video number 1. And for this one, we're going to use what is quite often mentioned to people starting with lock picking. And this is the Master Lock 141. It's a very, very basic lock. I would never actually suggest you use it as a lock because it is terrible, but it is a good training lock for people getting into lock sport. I honestly would start with this lock after you finished with the acrylic training lock. This one is a much better one to start off with compared to, say, this, which is the Master Lock number 3. The problem with this one is, number one, the core is just absolutely like abysmal. You can see how much it moves around in there, which means that when you're picking it, you're dealing with a lot of slop, but also just picking the pins, they're mushy. And you're going to find that as you're picking it, the feedback that you are listening for and feeling for, it's just not there. It's an objectively terrible lock when it comes to lock picking, and it could potentially make you think that you're a bad picker when really it's just so sloppy inside. It's like, picking in mashed potato. That's the only way to describe it. Another one that's like that would be, this Garrison, which is basically, it's almost the same lock, but it's got some of the same problems. It's just a very mushy pick. Whereas if you go for something like the Master Lock 141, in this case, this one is the the 141 DLF because it's the higher shackle. But at least you're going to feel something when you're down in here picking. Like you can actually hear when things are setting. They make a nice little click. Like you heard that. Whereas if I try to set something, say on the Master Lock number 3, you may not even hear it. Like, it's just, everything's mushy. it's a hard, and I'm setting pins, but listen, I don't know if you can hear anything being set, but now listen when I take the tension off. See, I was actually setting pins, and that's the problem with these. So the keyway here is very, very wide, which means that you can get a pick up and down the entire height inside that keyway without hitting what they call warding, which is these notches sticking in from the sides here. One of the first things that you should try to do is be able to work out how many pins there are and where they are. So the first thing you want to do is be able to just work out where are the pins. It's okay to look down the keyway and see where your hook is going at this stage. You want to be able to feel, what does a spongy spring feel like? This will become quite important once we apply tension. The tension bar that I'm going to use for this one is this little Z-bar, and it's very, very thin. It's very narrow as well, which means that when I put it in here, it's going to stay out of the way. I can still get my hook all the way down, in and out, without this tensioner interfering with what I'm doing. There's different ways that you can place the tensioner. You could, if you want, put it up the top. If you do that, it's more prone to falling out, so you're going to have to keep some pressure on it just to keep it in place like this. For the purposes of this video, I'm actually going to put it down here. Now, the other thing you want to be wary of is that if you push too hard, then you can actually end up digging in on the side here of the lock. For some of the even cheaper locks, you can actually end up splitting the plug apart by the sort of torque as it's trying to rip the two halves apart. So you don't want to go too heavy down here, but this is where I'm going to go for now. So I put the tensioner in, and I'm going to apply just a little bit of pressure. As you can see, that there's a little bit of play here. The core, actually, if I just bring it up, you can see the core actually moves just very, very slightly. So I'm going to add just a little bit of pressure here just to take this slack up, because you can see there that the core does move. So once we've taken up that slack, I'm just going to hold it gently in place. I'm not going to press too hard, and I'm now going to go in and start feeling like we did with the acrylic lock for pins that are binding. Okay, so pin number 1, there's nothing there. Pin number 2 is nothing there. Pin number 3 is nothing. And pin number 4 is the binding one. Okay, so I'm going to just put a little bit of extra pressure. Okay, so we've just clicked that one up. It wasn't a very loud click. Let me do that one again just so you can hear it. So I'm going to just find number 4. It's back there and there. Okay, so what also happened at the same time is the core turned just a smidge. So now I'm going to find the next binding pin. So 4 is spongy now. 3, nothing there. 2, 2's down, 2's low. Let's push number 2 up. Okay, let's go. And we've got an open. So picking this one open, I only had to pick basically pins 2 and 4 and just ignore 1 and 3. So what is already an objectively cheap lock, only half of its internals are actually doing anything on this particular one. So now you understand what it is that you're doing when you pick this lock. So again, a good exercise on this particular lock would be making sure that A, you can feel where the pins are, get used to feeling where the pins raise up on their ends, being able to drop them one by one, putting in the tension tool, feeling for the binding pins. What does it feel like when you put a lot of tension on there? What does it feel like when you put no tension on there? Feel the difference when you put your hook into the keyway. So there you go. There's the key, the lock, and the tools used. I would honestly suggest start there and practice. See you in the next video.